My name is Apostle Eugene Brunson. I'm the pastor of Wayfaring Ministry, and I'm also president of Christian Community Commission. And my concept of looking at things that, as I've been here, I'm not a native New Havenist. I've been here for about 20 years, 25 years. And I came here and began to see the things that's been happening here, and just start seeing things that were just falling apart. I look at it as family structure. As being a pastor, family structure is important. And I see that what happened is men was not on the page in this society. They have not. Everything that had happened drawn us away. And so God just began to press in my heart that don't never let another man what you went through. All of us in here as men have history. And we have history, but what we are doing, we are allowing to see our children repeat our history and don't say nothing about it. And that thing started pressing my heart, to making me understand that God opened up doors. Every place that men have been and lost and seeing like they have not been in place, that's where God sent me at. And first of all, he opened the door that I wound up being in these shelters here on Crown Street for years, teaching in there. I've seen men begin to restructure themselves, getting back into place, getting back into their home. Crack cocaine came out and began to start wiping out our men in our community. Then I wound up going to the prison system, being in the prison system and seeing the hurt. That what happened is once a man had come to reality of himself, now he realized and understands, I'm leaving everything that I had that meant something to me, I'm leaving it behind. I think that we need to restructure these men back into a place of fellowship in their community, in the relationship with their families. Because, as I say, money is nothing but an idea. But it takes a sober-minded man to being able to structure his children, his family, into a place of being able to restoring them into a place of fellowship back into our community. I see that I went on the street one day and I said, me and Minister Morris, we go out into the street. And I found out when we was over here on this side of town, there's shooting going on this side of town. We can't be in every place. But if it takes a whole community of men, especially because these young men will understand and they know. They will take, whatever your authority is, when you speak to them, they will change their life. They'll change their demeanor. Because all of us have been there. All of them came through these streets.
And I say that to illustrate that what we're seeing in the streets today is not new. There's nothing new and novel about what is occurring in our streets in 2006. If you remember, if you were in this city in the late 80s and the early 90s, I think you can say that it was much worse. In fact, a lot worse than it is today. And I say that to say that we have a very serious problem. One, we are not doing enough on a short-term basis in the medical field to do triage. Okay, some of these short-term programs like mentoring and so, and I say short-term because you're really only dealing and can deal in those kind of programs with the here and now. Okay, Brother Shafiq, I went to high school with Brother Shafiq. I knew Brother Shafiq before he was Brother Shafiq. And he's doing good work, but he's got 55 families. So my first message is that everybody needs to help. All of our resources need to be brought to bear on the problem, and we need to work on the triage. But let me tell you something. The reason why we continually have the problem that we have with violence and so forth, it's twofold. Because we don't have any vision for systematic change in our society, right? And what's important to understand is that there is nothing unique about violence amongst poor people. Okay? Black people don't have a monopoly on violence amongst the poor segments of their community. If you've ever seen a movie, Gangs in New York, okay, and see how those folks beat up on each other in New York, okay, around the time of the Civil War, it tells you that people who live in poverty, who have limited opportunities and limited options and so forth, often turn to violence to settle the problems they're these, right? So other people have dealt with it, and again, a lot of it has to do with poverty. And I'm not suggesting that, unless you are committed to scientific socialism or communism and are interested in overturning our system of capitalism in this country, okay, you have to understand there are always going to be poor people under capitalism. All right? And I didn't plan to give this message today, but this is where the Spirit is leading me. All right? But there is nothing to say that we have to be the poor people. You hear my message? There's nothing to say that we have to be the poor people, the people at the bottom of the system. Now that might mean that somebody else is at the bottom, and and maybe that's not the message that we need to be communicating. But we need to understand the system under which we live. And capitalism respects innovation, it respects expertise, it respects education. So when we start talking about achievement and success in our society, we have to redefine what success is in our community.
Amen.
It came up in an earlier conversation. We are caught into this cycle where our young people believe to be cool and to be smart, and so, it is not to be smart, not to be successful at school, that violence is acceptable. We need to break that pattern and break that cycle. So what I'm suggesting today is that we have to do the triage in the short term, but we have to be committed in a very real way to developing a vision for the long-term success of our people. That takes leadership, but it also takes everybody, men, women, and children, being committed to a vision, a shared vision, and challenging the system and overturning our system so that everybody can succeed in our society.
First, I'm honored to sit among a panel with great black leaders. My name is Frank Brady, a student at Southern Connecticut State University. I'm a vocal poet, involved in the Black Student Union at Southern, also involved in Project SET. This is a group of individuals working towards positive change in the community. Basically, my reason for being here, my purpose is, I was touching with Vincent Morris, and I seen that he had a dream for the community, basically rectify the community, restore it. And the way I feel right now is like, as a young black male walking through social media every day, that things are they're going down. And I feel like if a move isn't made now, then the generation which is underneath, which is beneath me, is going to fail. And it's sad to say, it almost seems like it would almost be, it's hard to save the generation that my generation right now. But it seems like the generation under us right now is getting worse, because I remember when I was growing up, we had people to look up to more so. Now our age are doing more positive things. But nowadays, that's not highlighted in the media, as my man said. To be smart, to be doing the right thing isn't popular. And due to that disparity among the nation, people my age and under, we think that, we have to wear such and such to fit in. We have to, because that's the only way we get, what's it, attention. That's the only way we're accepted. I feel like if we actually focus on, as a people, as a wide people, we actually focus on, the blacks that are doing positive things and, making positive moves and uplift them, then we can go somewhere. And one major problem I believe in community is there's not enough unity. Everybody is so separated. I noticed that there can be 10 churches within a 10-block radius, but none of them wants to collaborate and work together with each other.
That's right.
That's just telling the truth.
That's right.
And even if you reach outside the four walls, you can see black businesses collaborating with black churches, collaborating with black educators. That doesn't happen. Everybody's so. I guess what I'm trying to say is everybody's so busy trying to get piece of American pie that they don't want to share with each other. I feel like if we share, we can uplift each other, we can rise as a people. But it has to start somewhere. And a lot of people say, okay, well, we'll leave it for the next person to do it. Now, my argument is that I maintain that if Dr. King said, I'll leave this for the next person to do, then will we be? So we can't always, I feel like we can't always turn a blind eye and just pass it on, because the next person might not be there. The next generation might not be there. It starts with us.
Give you some information just for you to digest, and you figure out from there what needs to be done. First of all, I watch the audience as this young man was speaking, and it seems as though he had all of his spellbound. That you were really interested in what a young person had to say. That was extremely important. That's an observation I made. And I think what I thought I was seeing is that you thought what was coming from him was meaningful, because it may be one of the few times we listen to a young person. Maybe one of the few times we listen to a young person. So I thought it was interesting how you accepted that, and I was really pleased by it. Let me give you a number. Reverend Brunson talked about a number that I threw out last night about the number of people coming back to town from prison every month. And I said, y'all do the math on it. Just do the math on it. Over a year's time, 3,000. If you do it over 5 years, that's 15,000 people coming back to town. Let me give you something else. I raised a question one day. It came to me, and you know, I was in Hartford, and it came to me like, gee, I wonder how many children are connected to those people. I wonder how many. I said, oh, gee, oh, right. Somebody got that information somewhere. Let me go see if I can find it. So I made a call. Bing, hey, you know, we have all these people, you know, prison, da-da-da-da, a captive audience. It's not as if they're running and bing, bing, a captive audience. All you got to do is ask the question. Guess what I find out? They don't collect that data. Now think about that now. The data is not collected, which means now there's no understanding whatsoever about people who are in prison, those who come out, the devastation that takes place on a family. No connection at all. Matter of fact, it's not data worthy of being kept. So therefore, you're able to foster a policy that's going to keep people here and their families in constant disarray forever. Because no one's bothered to think that, well, how many kids involved? If you're talking about right now in prison, 20,000 people. If you just take one child per person, 20,000 kids. If you assume there are 40,000. Do that over 5 years. Do that over 5 years. And you jolly well talking 100,000 kids. And now you wonder why they are out there doing what they do? Gee whiz. Now as people were talking, I made a note of a couple of things because I want to talk about. I said, you know, one, the focus of this group ought to be on youth. It's needed in such a big way. I said next, for all kids, someone mentioned something about kids and goodness in kids. I taught school, I know what you're doing now. I taught school. Telling me to shut up. I don't want to. But kids in school, what I have found out, there's nothing wrong with any young person.
That's right.
That hasn't been caused by some adult. They ain't the kids. They ain't the kids.
Say it again.
The adult. So the adult can be a derelict in duty, mission, or example, whatever. And kids learn it because it's being taught by the adult.
That's right.
So there's nothing wrong with a kid that hasn't been taught by some adult. And the last thing was that we need to reconnect to families and young people. We need to reconnect. And it doesn't have to be your kid to connect to. I feel that all of us are examples of everybody else's child. Everybody else's child. It ain't just my child, but it's all of your children that I need to reconnect. I got it all. Thank you.
I would just say real quickly, I know time is of essence. I'd like to apologize for this. First of all, Black Panther Party in New Haven, gone.
Yes, sir.
Urban League, gone. Nation of Islam, on its last thread, gone. Q House, gone. Every major black organization, NAACP still trying to hang in there, but every major black institution, Urban League, gone. Every major black institution in New Haven is pretty much gone. That we relied on over this last century. As the brother said, Black Church, still there with us. But we need to think and analyze that a lot of the stuff that's going on is because a lot of our major institutions have fell to the wayside, and the black man has let this happen under our watch. All right, just want to talk about that real quick. The other thing is that, this is being videotaped, but I gotta be as real. I'm always getting in trouble anyway, so it is what it is. There's a new nigga now. Gotta give it to you like that.
They're creating Mexicans to come in while they brought you here. You were brought here for free labor to work for this capitalistic society that Roger talked about. And then after they finished working you for free, then they sent you from the south up north to work into their factory. They don't need you in their factories no more. So that's what they gave us in the 60s, they gave us heroin. And we sold heroin to each other, and we did what we did. And then after that, we got into political power in the 70s, and we took over all the major urban areas. We took over New Haven, Hartford, Chicago, DC, LA, New York. We had black man's north. Blacks were about to take over this country. And then they threw crack at it. Boom. And we're seeing the babies of crack. All right? And now we're seeing an overwhelming, I've never seen this in my life, so many guns amongst little babies. I've never seen this many guns where you see 12 and 13-year-olds shooting it out. They used to fight back in the day, and the older guys would never give the little guys guns. But you see so many babies now with guns. And I think that the government has something to do with it.
Yes, sir.
I think it has something to do with the heroin.
Yes, sir.
I think it has something to do with the crack. And I think that all these young people in prisons and all these guns out here because they're and AIDS has something to do with us wiping us out. That could be a conspiracy theory or whatever, but at the end of the day, black folk, we gotta have our plan. We gotta have something that we execute. We know the problems. We have soldiers here. Let's get out, let's work, and let's execute. I think that the Million Man March was one of the greatest achievements that black men have ever put together. It was the greatest experience in my life. The only thing about all these particular things that we put together, and I've been working on this for the last 20 years, since 1987, is the following. After this, we gotta have, I've discussed this with Brother Donald Morrison, and I'm discussing with a lot of brothers that are in this room. The end of the day is all about following. Talked about the short term, but the long term solution, you gotta have patience in order to have full term, concrete resolutions. A lot of people want the problem solved immediately. But the only way we're gonna have to do, the only way we're gonna have these problems solved is concrete, long-standing relationships and patience with one another and love for one another.
Came in last of the Black Student Union at Southern Connecticut. He is also the president of the
Omicron Theta Chapter 5 of the Sigma Fraternity Incorporated.
He worked on campus, and I went to a meeting that they had, the young black brothers organizing on the college campus, and I was so impressed with the group of men, young brothers that they had, where they were going to take the initiative, like I was saying, along with, Brother Brady, but he's actually the leadership of that. So we were talking about violence in the black community, just trying to get your perspective, and outreach. I'll give you 2 minutes, and then we'll give the order.
We need to start establishing programs for the youth. We touch base on the Q House. A lot of these programs we have now, they're losing their focus. I work for a program now. I'm not going to say the name of the program. There's 5 sites in New Haven. At my site, we have 1 classroom. We have 50 children in this 1 classroom. We have approximately 12 counselors. And then we have a management person. So we have 63 people in 1 classroom. It's a preschool classroom. How can we get through to our children in a preschool classroom when we have children aged 7 to 12? The tables are this big. There's 2 tables. There's 7 chairs. So we have children in one corner, children in another corner, children in this corner, children in the middle of the room. 6 different curriculums going on at one time. How can we get through to all our children? We need more programming. That's the only way to get back to the youth. The kids don't have anything to do. Parents are working.
That's right.
Television is raising our kids. As far as, I remember when I was growing up in the church, even if your father wasn't around, you had deacons, you had elders, constantly checking up on you. How you doing in school?
Is there anything you're struggling with? Do you need anything? It's like, young men don't really have that anymore like they used to. And it's a shame. They don't have role models anymore. The role models they have are on TV. And when you look at TV, the whole concept of family is gone. When I was growing up, we had a show called The Cosbys. And that show highlighted a black man, a professional black man, and a professional black woman educating their children, supporting their children, getting their children through college. What shows do we have now?
Flavor Flav.
Flavor Flav. I asked one of my kids. I asked one of my kids, a couple of my kids. I have 9 children, and I asked them, what do they want to be when they grow up? I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a rapper. I want to play football. I want to be a baseball player. And I'm sitting here like, what is the whole concept of education? They're not asking what shows they watch. There's nothing for them to watch. And then one kid shocked me. I said, I was getting upset. I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? He goes, I want to be a doctor. I said, a doctor? I said, why? He was like, well, my favorite show is The Cosbys. Bill Cosby was a doctor on the show. Bill Cosby was his role model. Bill Cosby is the ideal man to him, supporting his family, doing what he has to do, receiving his education, and then going back. That's all I have to say about that.
Amen.